Welcome to Brain Vision.
This example is walking us through trade gains and how about we get to achieving trade gains. And particularly, we're going to be using opportunity costs, absolute and comparative advantages. Let's start with part A here, and it's asking us, in a situation of no trade between Boston and Chicago here, what is the price of White Sox in terms of Red Sox for each of these? So we can see by looking at this table, it looks like Boston has the same production possibilities for each of these two colored socks, which means that in order for them to produce one pair of White Sox, it's going to cost them one pair of Red Sox. Chicago, on the other hand, does not have the same production possibilities for each of these colored socks. But we do see that they can produce that one pair of White Sox in an hour and two pairs of Red Sox in an hour, which gives us their cost of that one pair of White Sox. Now, part B is asking us to find these absolute and comparative advantages. So let's start with these absolute advantages. And we know that absolute advantages is it's asking us which city here can produce more of each commodity within an hour. And it looks like Boston has the absolute advantage in both of these colored socks. You can see that they can produce more pairs per worker per hour than Chicago can in both of these colored socks. Now, looking at the comparative advantage, what we have to do is get away from these absolute advantages. We're not looking just at the production possibilities, but we're looking at their opportunity costs. And that's essentially what we just did in part A by calculating the cost of one white sock or one pair of white socks. So we can see that for Boston, to produce one pair of white socks, it costs them one pair of Red Sox, and that's their opportunity cost of producing that one pair of White Sox. Chicago, on the other hand, has an opportunity cost of producing one pair of White Sox, which is equal to two pairs of Red Sox. So if we wanted to ask ourselves, what is the comparative advantage, or which city has the comparative advantage in producing these White Sox? Well, it's going to be the one with that lower cost, so it looks like that's Boston. And inherently, that means that the comparative advantage for producing Red Sox has to go to Chicago because Boston can't have the comparative advantage in both. So it must go to Chicago. Now, part C, it's asking us if these two cities were to trade together, which city would export which color sock? And we know that cities and countries and trading partners, they produce and export the good which they have the comparative advantage in. So we just identified in part B which commodity each city has a comparative advantage in. So we can say that Boston is going to export White Sox and Chicago is going to export Red Sox. And again, that's just because each of these has the comparative advantage in these respective goods. Now, part D is asking us just to find this range of trading prices, and essentially that's just the range of our opportunity costs actually, because neither is going to want to take a loss on their trading. So they're only going to trade at a cost which is equal to or less than their opportunity cost because they want to earn something back. They need to gain somehow. So if they start to pay a little bit too much, if we're trading at the wrong amount, these two cities are going to lose that gain from trade. So the range of trading prices is just this range of opportunity costs. So they could trade at a price for one white, which is equal to one red sock, to one white sock at a cost of two red socks. And that will allow both of these two cities to benefit from trade if they trade somewhere within that range.